The Tangent Egg podcast is aimed at a mature audience. It contains themes that are not appropriate for all listeners. It's important to note that we are not experts. We routinely have no idea what we're talking about and are just three idiots sitting around a table. Listener discretion is advised.
Welcome to the Tangent Podcast. I'm Seth, and unfortunately, again, only with me is Swoosh.
Hello.
Unfortunately, real life continues to keep Dan away from the recording suite, and we hope we get him back pretty soon, but the real world seems to have got its fingers in him for a little while.
Which is horrible. No one wants the real world getting their claws in.
No.
We were thinking of replacing him with a sock puppet, but we couldn't get the voice right.
Nah. Look, maybe one day we'll find a way to make this podcast profitable enough that this isn't a problem, but right now, that's not a thing. We gotta go to real jobs.
Yeah.
So,
Unfortunately.
let's start off with, and I'm annoyed because this all happened just after we recorded last week. They had the Star Wars celebration, and we got a bunch of stuff happen. The big one, of course, for most people will have been they dropped the new trailer for Ahsoka. And that's looking really, really good.
I'm quite keen for that, to be honest.
I'm particularly excited because I watched all of Rebels. And
Yeah, same.
they're bringing back the cast of the Ghost, which is the main ship from that show. So we already saw Zed in The Mandalorian. If you don't know, he was the big purple sort of like monkey-looking dude.
Yeah.
That was Zed. I can't remember what the Twi'lek from who's the pilot of the Ghost is. She's shown on camera. We've also shown Chopper, who is easily one of the best droids in the franchise.
Oh, yeah.
And we've also seen Sabine, who's a Mandalorian. So
It took me a second to realize it was Sabine. She was weirdly subdued in color.
I don't think she was subdued in color. I think the thing that probably really threw you off was the fact that she has long hair instead of the bob cut.
That is also a thing.
Because she's got the rainbow hair still.
Yeah. But it's like, with that new style Star Wars seems to be going for, everything's like slightly darker. I was like, because her armor was always bright and colorful in the cartoon, but that cartoon itself was bright and colorful.
Well, I think also they played a lot of color theory off it, because they had her, her armor's mostly purple with orange accent.
Yeah.
Which doesn't come as bright across. I actually can't even remember if she was in armor in the trailer. I'd have to look at it again.
I don't think she was,
No,
because that was part of the reason I didn't quite catch on to. Because even the Mando armor from the series, all the other Mandalorians you see have pretty colorful armor. I do want to see what they get up to with it, because she was a graffiti artist.
Yeah.
I want to see them expand on that, because it's the future. Can you imagine kind of fluorescent or glowing paints you'd be able to get in that kind of futurescape?
Well, I mean, they've shown them off a bit. And again, if you watched not Clone Wars, Rebels.
And I want to see them do that in live action, because I think that'd be interesting.
Yes, it would.
I mean, Boba Fett did kind of touch on the people who implant technology themselves, but didn't go into it too much. So there's things they're experimenting with in the franchise.
But can we, do that idea again and not have the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers be the example?
Yeah, no, they were, the worst part of that show in my head. The other stuff was fun.
So, that trailer was the big... Oh, and of course, the confirmation of Thrawn.
Oh, yes. Forgot about that.
So, people are very excited, because it had been long... because the idea that the pitch that we'd seen ages ago for the Ahsoka TV show was Ahsoka and Sabine looking for Ezra. And the last time Ezra had been seen was, when he jumped on a whale with Thrawn. So,
and they have shown those whales in Mandalorian recently.
Yes, they have.
Which really, I think, did well just to add a sense of scale and terror to hyperspace.
As with equal parts a bit of wonder, too, because hyperspace is always shown as this empty, you just sort of cruise through it thing. And then they're like, no, there's life in there.
There's shit in that place. It's terrifying. Because it's one of those, it's beautiful and all that kind of stuff. It's can you imagine that at some point there has to be an accident when someone just slamming into one of these things going through hyperspace? Chunks of space whale everywhere. Horror. But the interesting thing would be the fact that we've already seen in the Star Wars universe, things just live in space that are predatory. It's hunters and asteroid those giant worm things from the originals. I am guaranteeing there's a predator somewhere out in hyperspace, something that hunts these whales.
Probably. I mean, there has to be, like... I mean, there doesn't have to be, but one would argue that there's got to be a reason these whales developed the ability to go to hyperspace.
Yeah,
like,
pretty much.
You're an organic creature with no need to jump between systems. There's got to be a reason. I mean, there doesn't have to be. Someone could have designed them that way, I guess, but, you know.
Yeah. Someone could have just made space whales for shits and giggles. It's that kind of far future science. But at the same time, like, I would be interested for that to be a shake-up in a Star Wars universe at some point. Like, hyperspace is now not as safe as we thought it was.
I don't think they'll go that far. Hyperspace is too convenient for letting them go between different systems and planets.
No, that's true.
I don't think they'll probably ever go much further than showing you the hyperspace whales.
Yeah, that's fair.
But, point is, last time we saw Thrawn, he was with Ezra disappearing into the wild beyond. So people
not just disappearing to the world beyond, but disappearing to the world beyond in a ship that did not have any windows.
Yeah, which is another big question mark. But he's back, so we're going to find out at least a little bit of what happened with that, I hope.
I hope he comes back slightly batty. Like, just a little bit insane.
At the same time, I really like Thrawn, just kind of the way he is. I've read the books that go with him as well. He's fun the way he is.
Oh, yeah.
Cold,
calculating, and somewhat terrifying.
But speaking of Thrawn, that does lead into the other big thing that was announced at Star Wars Celebration, which was 3 movies. One of which is being, and I'm probably going to quote the wrong guy because I always do. I think it's Dave Filoni looks after Star Wars.
Yeah, I think so.
Essentially, the Filoni who looks after Star Wars is been given a movie to do. And a lot of people are speculating that what will happen is they won't defeat Thrawn by the end of Ahsoka's show.
Yeah.
And then this movie will be bringing Ahsoka, the Mandalorians. Maybe they'll sack up and bring the Bad Batch along with them.
That would be fun.
And have them all go to defeat Thrawn.
Yeah.
So that's kind of the rumor mill right now. We'll see how it all pans out.
That would be fun. I would like that. I'm hoping they use Ahsoka as a way to bring in the Bad Batch to live action.
That
see
would
if
be
they
cool.
can do something there. Even if it's just a one-off job that she does because, you know, she still looks after or deals with clones.
Well, I mean, the biggest hurdle to that right now is the current season of Bad Batch is over.
Yeah.
And we have no idea what's going to happen to them long run.
Yeah.
So while I would love them to live long enough and to be able to show up in a subsequent project, they're not currently in their own fiction in a position to do that.
Pretty much.
They're also still, beginning of the Empire, not post-Empire.
Yeah.
So, but it would be cool.
What would be interesting is if Ahsoka, she goes around attacking, was it ex-Rebel or ex-Imperial bases, she just finds them in carbonite. Because that would be just a matter of oh shit, there's clones here, let's get them out.
I would expect...
And it gives you that weird point.
I would expect if they were going to bring one back, they'd probably go for Rex.
Yeah, no guaranteed they'll bring Rex in, which would be good.
I like the Bad Batch, and I think they'd make a better fit, but Rex is the iconic character to Ahsoka. Because if I recall, Rex used to run the regiment of stormtroopers that she was regularly attached to.
Yeah.
Pretty sure it was Rex.
Pretty sure. I think it was.
He's
also one of the few that survived Order 66 without being impaired.
With his brutal scene, though.
Yeah.
Fucking standing there trying to not shoot her while crying and saying, "Good soldiers, follow orders."
Yeah, no, if anyone has not watched Rebels, please, for the love of God,
no, that's the last season of Clone Wars.
Clone Wars, yeah, not Rebels. But for the love of God, go watch it. The final episode is when Order 66 hits.
No, it's not the final episode. There's a couple episodes after Order 66 happens.
Yeah, true. Where she's escaping.
Yeah, where she's on the ship full of clones that want to murder her.
But they do a really good job of showing the exact moment that Order 66 happens and everything comes together.
Yeah.
And it's very well done. And I kind of got weird goosebumps from that one. It's like watching it, oh shit, It's happening.
Yeah.
That thing we never thought they'd actually sack up and do. It's happening.
I would highly recommend, if you watched a little bit of Clone Wars and were like, not my thing, listen to me
Fair.
right here, right now. Just fire up the last season.
You don't need to know much. There is a refresher course that someone's put up on YouTube. It gets you on like the main highlights of Clone Wars. Because I watched that in preparation for watching the last season.
Season 6 came out like a year or two after the previous one because we thought it was never going to get a follow-up. It's excellent. They absolutely were like, we're doing one more season of this. Go hard.
Well, it was like after the success of Rebels and everything else, they threw money at it. It's like, all right, we've proved there is actually a market for this again, so have some money, have a last season, make something interesting. And that led us on to Bad Batch and everything else getting extended as well.
Yeah, and it's all been good. I personally think their animated offering... The biggest problem their animated offerings have, and they... God damn it, one of these days I will remember to turn my goddamn phone off. It's annoying because Swoosh literally took a moment to do this before we started recording and I didn't do it either.
There's always one of us. At least one of us each episode forgets to turn their phone off.
The problem their animated stuff has is it always feels a little childish at the start, and then it gets its gears going, and then it's like, they may not stop being kids shows, but they get a lot more like adult orientated, so like an adult audience can enjoy them a lot more.
Yeah.
But they always start a little childish. Because, come on. One of the later seasons of Clone Wars deals with a Jedi Master who decides that he fucking hates clones. So he's going to specifically set them up to shoot each other.
Pretty much.
It's just like, it gets into some dark shit.
It really fucking does. It's still very fun and entertaining, but it's like, every so often it's like, and dark side of the universe. Like, I like that. Can I get more of that, please? Are we meant to be getting a Star Wars horror show at some point in the future? There was something that popped up for it.
Maybe. I haven't got anything about it right on top of me right now.
It was in one of the, batch things they did a while ago. When Ahsoka was first announced, there was something else they were doing, which may not have been horror.
They
but
might have,
like a thriller.
Because they put out, a lot of stuff in one go. Like, the last celebration they just did, they were a little more focused. Like, what are you actually going to get? Because it seems like the, Rogue Squadron movie seems to have been shelved indefinitely.
Which makes me sad.
Yes and no. I mean, I wasn't that excited for, okay, we're gonna do space pilots. Okay.
I mean, a pilot's TV show or movie would be interesting. I swear, I thought they were setting up a split-off with... I can't remember the actual actor's name, but Mr. Kim from Mando.
Oh, yeah.
I would honestly watch a detective series with him.
Yeah.
I would enjoy that, because they're setting him up as the not quite renegade X-Wing cop, but a guy who is trying to play by the rules, but is happy to play outside them if it's for the good of the galaxy. And I would love to see more of that. Also, I just like that actor. He's fun.
So, the other two movies that we're talking about at this celebration was Acolyte, which they've now confirmed when it's set. And it is the oldest point in the timeline currently discussed.
Oh.
So, previously we had High Republic, and then before that they had Old Republic. Now, before that is Rise of the Jedi. And they're setting it then. So they're setting it in the oldest point in the timeline that they're willing to canonize.
That's gonna be interesting.
Yeah.
I like them going back to a time where, the Skywalkers are barely even a twinkle in their ancestors' eye. So we can get away from that entirely. I am sick to death of the Skywalkers. I like Star Wars, but I want them to go away.
I'm guessing you haven't heard what the third movie is.
No, not Mara Jade.
What?
Is it Mara?
No.
Luke's daughter or whatever the fuck it is?
How are they supposed to do that? He's dead.
Like Luke. Oh, yeah, true.
All the old legacy stuff to do with Luke is useless now. He can't have a wife. He can't have kids. It's all out the window. I think Mara Jade was his wife, wasn't she?
I can't remember if she was his wife.
I would have to look it up
There's a couple
again.
of them.
It's been a while since I read any of the old Legacy books. I know she's attached to him somehow. No, so what they're doing is they're jumping forward in the timeline 15 years and showing Rey setting up a Jedi Academy.
Oh, for fuck's sake.
Yeah. There was a little cold bit of my heart that had a little flame that was like, they're gonna forget about the new trilogy. They're just gonna let it die, let it go away as a mistake. They kept doing stuff in the TV shows and things that were essentially setting up the Palpatine thing, and I'm like, okay, I get it, but like, maybe you could do a new set of movies that actually picks that plot up properly, and we can have something good, and you'll just forget you did it. Nah. Now they've officially stated that she's in the thing. She's running a Jedi Academy. It's set 15 years after the third film.
I hate the fact it's going to be like, because she has no training as a Jedi. She has less training than Luke did.
Yep.
Like, she had like a weekend seminar
And a
level
couple
of training.
books.
Yeah. I don't want Jedi and Sith anymore. You don't need them to have good villains. You could just have a Force user who uses the Force in dark ways. And you can experiment with it. Just because the light side powers are always described as the light side powers doesn't mean they can't be used for dark desires. Like, explore on that, or have a renegade Force user who uses lightning but is a vigilante.
Yeah.
Like, you could do so much stuff there. You essentially have space superpower, but you're limiting yourself to samurais and angry lords.
Yeah.
That's it. You're not expanding on this. You have an opportunity here. You could have just let those orders die and explained it away as they weren't keeping the balance, they were making it worse. Like, everything else has been setting up for Grey Force users, the guys in the middle. Everything has been pushing towards it. Hell, we saw a great being of the Force of the moral Grey from Rebels. I think it was.
When they were on the planet that embodied the Force.
Yeah. And it's just, that was great. And even then, the three sides of it, the father who was this Grey Force, and the daughter and the son who were the light and dark, being encompassed as, great users. You could expand on that. But no, Jedi.
Yeah. So that's the third one, and I'm the least excited about it, and it snuffed out that little flame in my heart that was like, they're going to just forget about these terrible movies.
I think it's not even going to be the Jedi. It's going to be like a photocopy of a photocopy of the Jedi.
Yeah, because Rey's never experienced the Jedi.
Yeah.
And her experience with them is one old guy and his dusty old books.
And even then, Yoda burnt the books, didn't he?
Nope.
Oh no, she took him with him, that's
Yep, right after he burns the tree and he's like, all of the texts are gone, they then show Rey putting them in a drawer.
Yeah. Even then, if they go back to the original Jedi stuff, that alone, if those books don't contain the exact model the Jedi Order was already working on, means the Jedi Order corrupted itself.
Yeah.
By ignoring the sacred text. They left them to rot in the tree. They forgot about them. So what is it with, like, Force books and the trees?
Yeah. Either way...
Force users and their trees, man.
Oh, and I don't remember if it was at the Celebration, but I do know we're getting another season of Star Wars Visions as well.
Yes, that I'm kind of keen for. The first one was very fun.
Yeah, I still, absolutely love Lightsaber Umbrella. That was fun.
Oh, it was so great. I love that one. I like those anthology kind of shows where they can play with a universe and be like, hey, what about this? And that's where they can make those changes and do some interesting stuff.
Yeah. So, I think the only other thing we have to talk about Star Wars is the current run of Mando, but we're going to save that for next week because next week is the final. We kind of wanted to talk about it this week because, damn, that penultimate episode was so good. Holy
They've always
crap.
been good with, the penultimate ones where it's like, it's right before... We're going to get you hype. Like, ooh, you bastards. I am indeed hype.
Well, given the fact that this is about to be the culmination of Bo-Katan's story from two TV shows ago.
Yeah.
Because she started in Clone Wars, flowed through into Rebels, and now she's into Mando.
I do like the fact that in the episode before, Mando rules lawyers around giving up the fucking blade.
Oh yeah, that's so good.
I loved it.
But we'll get into this stuff next week when we do a big roundup on the season of Mandalorian.
Yes.
Little teaser for you. But shock horror, we like it.
Who'd have thought, right?
So, shall we move on to being grumpy at some companies?
We are very good at being grumpy at companies.
Alright, let's start with the soft target. HBO. So, HBO has announced two things. One, for some, I don't freaking know why reason, they're dropping the HBO from HBO Max. So they're just going to be called Max.
The only reason I can think of is under, I think it's American law, after a product makes so X amount of money, it has to become a separate entity.
Maybe.
Which, that I think might have something to do with it, or it's probably just not a tax thing.
It might also lean into what is a thing that a lot of streaming services are running into as a thing now, where they're not able to make enough of their own content, so they've got to start getting it from somewhere else.
Yeah.
So if you're leasing Marvel movies, well, they weren't made by HBO, so...
Yeah, it's also one of those things where, for the longest time, the reason that Disney and that couldn't have their own theaters or set their own prices was a fact that the government across most of the world's like, no, you can't be a production house and distribute to people. That's double dipping. And then streaming services happened, and they're a weird middle ground. And I think there's been some push in certain places to have those laws fixed so they can't keep doing it this way. So they might be going, oh, no, it's not us. It's a separate entity. They just happen to have all that shit.
Maybe, but I doubt that.
You never know.
I mean, Disney basically runs a state, so...
More or less. Like, I'm pretty sure all of the Disney parks are considered not sovereign land, but they function under their own power.
I think because they funnel so much money into their communities and areas, it's just like, oh, the local legislator wants to make something we don't like. Yeah, nah, we'll just leave if you do that.
You don't fuck with the House of Mouse.
But point is, they're doing that, and their second thing is they are committing to a 10-year project in which they are going to remake the Harry Potter books. Now, that sounds like it could be good, until they point out that it will have direct involvement by J.K. Rowling.
Yep. And I don't like that at all.
If all they'd done is go, we're not getting J.K. Rowling's involvement, well, hey, then we could have potentially gone, okay, we're going to have all of the things that aren't very good in those books. We can reconfigure that stuff and smooth out some of the more questionable content.
Yeah.
No, J.K. Rowling's going to be heavily involved, so it's not going to be...
And the fact that she's heavily involved as well is never a good thing to see. It's just going to become another, soapbox for her to start preaching her very bigoted views again. So
probably, I'm not going to make any more comment about that because we don't know. But it's a pretty fair assumption, and it's not a good thing to have put out there big block letters. We're doing this.
That should have just been, we're doing Harry Potter, and then very small in the background, also, this chick's going to be involved with that.
Well, I mean, pretty quickly, anyone who asked them any questions would have been like, so, J.K. Rowling?
Yeah, it would have been the first thing people asked, but they might have got at least a good week of press out of it.
Yeah, I know, right? So, that's HBO.
Yeah.
Move on to easy mark number 2.
Excellent.
So, Sony. Now, I would heavily like to point out that this is not confirmed by Sony, so we could be talking out of our ass, but I have seen it reported in a couple of different places. Sony's looking to do a new handheld, and people are like, ooh, they're going to take another swing at the Vita, are they? And there's still a lot of people who are big fans of the Vita. I was actually around at a friend of mine's place who's a giant tech hoarder, and she's still got her Vita, and it's on her coffee table because she loves the thing. And really wishes more people would like it too, but it doesn't get games anymore. And
the Vita was essentially the Zune for handheld gaming devices.
Kinda. Well,
it functioned, it did its job, but no one ever played it.
Yeah. Well, they prioritized graphics and fidelity, and play speed and all that kind of stuff over everything else, which meant it had the battery life of a AA.
Basically, it's like, I'm going to play this game, and we're done.
Yeah. So, like, I had a PSP. Actually, I've still got mine. It's a good little piece of kit. It's just, yeah, it's not great.
Like,
so,
they died for a reason.
Yeah. But they're looking to wander back in, and it seems like what it's going to be is a handheld with a screen on it. You know, sort of Switch-like with the controller bits bolted onto the side of it. It's going to be capable of 1080p, 60 frames per second, streaming from your PS5.
Yeah.
Only. It can't go on the road.
So, has none of its own hardware. You have to have a plugged-in and running PS5 to stream the content.
And you can be the only one using the PS5. It's not like, you know, Switch could be playing Horizon, and I'm like, oh, but I want to play Last of Us. I'll play on the little screen then. Nope. Only one person can be using the PlayStation, and if the person on the little screen's using it, can't use it on the big screen.
Pretty much. And that shouldn't even be, like, yes, it's a handheld, but that's a controller. That's not a fucking handheld device. To me, that is a bit of a stretch, what it is. Like, if you're going to do a handheld device, and if you're going to try and copy the Switch, go hard. Like, do it properly. Why are you fart-assing around with half an idea and doing it worse than your competitor is?
Yeah.
Like, if you can't do it better than them, ignore it. Leave it be.
Yeah.
Work on something different. Find a new avenue. Hell, like, I remember, I think it was Sony tried making a phone years ago. Back before, like, when smartphones were not a thing. It's one of the big fold-out kind of ones. Barely functional LCD screen. But they're like, we'll make it into a Game Boy, essentially. And it had digital gaming. Bring that back. If you could, like, build a phone with a decent battery life that would be able to function as a handheld, I reckon you'd be able to go into a different market. You'd have something different that sets you apart from everyone else. Because, let's face it, Microsoft has that integration with PC down, and they will never be beaten.
Well,
and
I'm not going to say they're never going to be beaten, but no one's fighting them.
At least not Sony.
Look, again, I keep bringing it up because we keep kind of hearing rumors about it every time they put new stuff out. We keep finding little hints that they're looking to do a PC storefront.
Yeah.
Hurry up, do it. Stop letting Microsoft run the show. Because the further Microsoft gets out in front, the harder you're going to have trying to make the ground up.
See, like, to me, that's what I think is happening. They've realized that at this point, Microsoft has so much of a lead going that we might as well try and take on a different person. They've always seen Nintendo as not even a threat to them.
They're a toy company.
Yeah. So effectively, they're like, oh, we can just take their things to the Switch. We'll punch down. It's like, you're going to find out that you don't punch down on Nintendo. They will win.
Well, they're not even...
They are a sleeping behemoth.
They're not even punching down, though. They're not making a portable handheld unit. If they were diving back into the portable space using the knowledge they've had over all these years and stealing the design, essentially, of the Switch, then it'd be like, cool, you're actually trying to take some swings at Nintendo. This is nothing. This is a giant nothing burger. The only person this could possibly be targeted at, and I know it won't be cheap enough for this to be real, to be the way it would work, would be someone who is living in a setup where they cannot have a TV or cannot afford one, and so you get this so you can still play a PS5.
Yeah.
But if you're not capable of having a TV, then why did you buy a PS5? And if you can't afford a TV, you can't afford a controller with just a little TV in it. TVs are cheap. They're not expensive pieces of equipment anymore. And you can get big ones for very little.
Oh, yeah. Like, you can get a decent-sized TV for very cheap.
Like, you hit up Aldi on the right day, you can get a fucking a big screen TV for like $200.
That's where I got my one on, actually. Like, I have a TV in my bedroom, which was I think it's Braun or something.
Yeah.
So I got that from Aldi. It was great.
So, it's not expensive, and no way this controller's like $50.
No, not at all. Like, this is going to be probably, like, variable to the PS5, I'm going to be honest. Like, I'm expecting this $500 at the very least.
I don't think they get away selling that much, but definitely more closer to the $200. You know how, like, there's the...
Well, their normal controllers are at least $100, and that's just the controller.
Well, see, like, I was going to compare it to the Xbox Pro controller, which is, like, $170.
Yeah.
So we're talking, like, a $200 for premium controllers. So, but again, like for $200, I can get a TV.
Yeah. I don't know why anyone thought this was a good idea.
No. Well,
Like,
it may not be real.
Yeah.
This may be some crap that's just been shuffled around the news sites and everyone's talking about it, and it turns out to be not real, or maybe it is more Switch-like than they're reporting.
Yeah. I very much hope that this is not everything, because, if it came from a leak, I'd be like, alright, maybe it's like one of those things where they're testing the waters by exposing their own leak or something. But no, there's not really much to see for it. And that might be what it is. Like, they could be just someone in PR going, what if we just say that's what we're doing and leak it to some random news sites and see what happens? But
maybe,
because
who knows? Like I said, it's not confirmed by Sony, so grain of salt's all around. But I mean, it's only like 2 months before trailer season happens, and we'll get Sony's big announcement suite. So if they're going to talk about it at some place, it's probably going to be that.
Pretty much.
But we'll have to wait and see on that one.
I would like them to do something with a handheld. I would like that. It'd be great.
Yeah.
But they would definitely have to focus heavily on battery life.
I mean, it's the biggest problem the Switch is having now that people are pushing the hardware harder. It's battery life is just not there. I mean,
yeah.
Hell, people have been screaming for like essentially a Switch 2 for a while now.
Pretty much.
And I love my Switch, but I would absolutely buy a new one if.
Oh yeah, no, I would definitely upgrade to a new one.
Yeah. Cool. So, last company we're going to have a bitch at in this little segment. I can't remember what the company's actually called, but the guys who made Ark Survival.
Yeah.
So,
strap yourselves in, because this is fucked.
This is so stupid. So, they are charging, I think it's $70 for the remaster of Ark Survival. No, sorry, it was $60 for the remake of Ark Survival. And they were going, okay, we're charging this much for a game we've essentially already made, but with slightly prettier graphics, because it's coming with a copy of Ark Survival 2. Whenever the fuck that comes out, and if you don't remember what that was the Vin Diesel dinosaur trailer from like two E3 Games Fest ago.
Yeah.
So who knows when that's actually going to come out? But they had this remake. They have recently amended the remake, after people have bitched and whined about it, to no longer include the second game. They've raised the price by $10, but now it includes the DLC. And they're still turning off the legacy service, so the only way you'll be able to play the games with the remake.
Yeah, they are effectively, like, if you've bought this game before, like I have, I actually bought a couple of expansions with it, they're more or less useless now.
Well, private servers are still theoretically runnable, but there's not going to be any official server support for this game anymore. You have to buy the remake if you want the official support. Pretty
much. And like that, it's a scuzzy move.
Yeah.
There's no way to look at this without it just being like, no. You've taken away the only reason you could justify this being any cost, really, for like above like $30 if you already bought it. If they just said, look, if you already have it, you can get it cheaper. Well, I would be fine.
Or
graphical update, DLC would be perfect.
Do what fucking, and I can't believe we had to promote this. Do what fucking Skyrim did.
Yeah.
Where when they went to the collector's edition, if you owned the game and all the DLC, they just gave it to you.
Yeah.
And I think when they went to Legendary, they did it again.
Yeah.
So, do that. If you own Ark already, here, have the remaster.
Yeah. You've already paid. That would get you so much good credit.
Yeah.
People would stick with you for so much longer.
Given how much shit that company's gotten for, we put DLC in a game that isn't done.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
they are one of the reasons why they had to change what an alpha and like a beta thing is. Like, they had to change, like, no, you can't keep doing this game.
And now they're angling towards doing a sequel, but while they work on the sequel, they want to resell you the game they already made slightly prettier.
Yeah. It is purely a money grab, and I get the feeling these guys, much like other companies that we've talked about previously, are, like, looking at people more as wallets than anything else.
Yes, 100%.
Like, not a person to them. You are a sentient wallet.
You are a speed bump to that wallet.
Yeah, you are an obstacle between them and your money. And that, I don't like that. I don't endorse that.
No.
If and when Arc 2 ever releases, I might have a look at it. But
off of practices like this, no.
Yeah, no.
I wasn't a huge fan of Arc to begin with. I don't think it had nearly enough time in the oven before they started trying to push it for people to play.
Yeah.
And this sort of scummy crap, nah, man. Not even Vin Diesel's going to get me to play that game.
Pretty much. They're going to have to work hard after this, I think. Even die-hard fans of this are going to be looking at that going, that's a kick in the teeth, guys. We've told you that we are not happy with what you're doing. Your response will say, alright, cool, we'll double down and force worse things on you. Like, no.
So that's our 3 roundup of companies that were doing some dumb shit this week.
I ain't guaranteeing there'll be more next week. There's always at least one company doing some dumb shit.
Oh, 100%. It's usually Blizzard.
Generally, yeah. Like, at this point, any controversy happens on the internet, the entire guy's like, Blizzard, no! It's like, oh, wait, sorry, force of habit.
Yeah.
But,
I mean, there was a thing that was like, some people are going to get to play Diablo 4 early, and it turned out it was just due to...
I think I just lost Seth. I did! Give it a second, folks, and he'll be back.
When did I cut out?
You were mid something or other, but I have no idea.
Crap.
This is going to be a fun one.
What was the last thing you heard me say?
I don't know.
And I started bitching about Diablo yet?
No.
Okay, so there was a thing that came out that some people were going to get to play Diablo early. Diablo 4. Turned out that it was simply due to crap. Like, I spent this entire time while I've apparently been disconnected from the call trying to remember what the fucking the difference between time zones.
There is a word.
I know, but my brain won't tell me what it is, and it's really going to annoy me for fucking ages. Basically, because of people being in different time zones, that's why some people will get to play it early, and the difference is only 7 hours.
That's what they're going with?
Look, there's actually some other stuff where, like, if you're premium editions, you get 5 days early, blah, 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 blah. But the thing they're referring to for this particular thing was simply a 7-hour drift due to time zones.
Jesus Christ.
It's like, woo! Yeah, people are playing it early because of fucking that shit. Like, that's dumb. That's fucking stupid. Dude, I live in Australia. I'm used to games coming out at 2 in the morning.
Yeah. Like, every time. But everyone's always, oh, you get it early. Like, if I stay awake all day, sure. Like, that's not fun.
Yeah. So, you know, we'll get around to some proper Blizzard bashing again at some point. I'm sure they're going to do something else.
Yeah.
But I feel like it's time to move on to our main event for this week, because it's Book Week!
Yay! I like Book Week.
So, our book for the last month was The Land of the Undying Lord.
So, this one was a progression
Yes.
novel, I think they're called.
They use the lit RPG mechanics, but they use them more as a background instead of a main... Well, I want to say it's a background, but it is kind of a focus for the series. It's hard to describe. But
a lot of things just refer to it as the nameless system. Or
if you've read lit RPGs and you've read progression fiction, there is a difference. It's just really hard to describe. And to me, it's
mostly
a sense of focus.
For me, lit RPG tends to be more of isekai, the novel. People tend to get shunted into a fantasy world, whereas a progression RPG is self-contained within that world. So people aren't brought in from the outside. They have no previous knowledge to draw on. They are only working within the system confines.
They're not looking at like game mechanics and how to break it. It's like, no, everything's known about this system. You just progress it.
Yeah.
So I will read John Doe's remarks in his entirety. He decided to send me his basic little blurb on the thing because, like I said, not here, stupid real world life. But we wanted to get his opinion all the same. So, these are John Doe's remarks on the book. I really enjoyed this book and the series because John Doe listens to so many audiobooks more than we do, but he's done the whole series and so have I. I don't know if Swoosh has finished them yet.
I got distracted by a new book that came out, which was Stray Cat Strut. That distracted me and got me on a tangent for other stuff.
That's fair. I'm sure you'll probably swing back around because they're quite good.
Oh yeah, definitely. It's in my list.
The opening when he is first summoned and his master acts the way she does first made me worry that this was going to be a master/slave power trip. But then the powerful people in this world, the people of this world do both the smartest and dumbest thing possible. They know he's a summon, they know he's the best Pokemon ever with unlimited potential, and they know he's a bond, they know his bond with his master is failing and accelerating without being in her proximity. So they separate them further, compounding the issue when she finally gets told, "You're being a bitch because your bond is failing, better go find him." They've taken him far into the countryside to train.
Yeah.
It could have been a redemption story for someone who's finally able to see the value of those around her from the point of view of her summon. All that was needed was for the author to replace Terce's character with his summoner. But instead, there is little to no repercussion once the bond is broken.
Yeah.
I also thought, once they start discovering his utility and skill slots and the potential he has, that this was going to be a Pokemon lit RPG, where they will travel the countryside battling other summons, but no. By the end of the book, he may as well have just woken up in the world and stumbled into the castle. All in all, there are a few flaws and bits that irk me due to their direction they chose for the characters, but I really enjoyed this book by the end.
Yeah.
Now, he brings up some points there that are pretty solid, and I don't want to shit on it too much, because, of course, Jono's not here to defend said opinions.
Yeah.
I do disagree with some of it. The taking him away, I don't think was incorrect, because they actually point out quite heavily that a lot of that was they were trying to make him like them, so that if she was incapable of fixing the bond, that he would like them enough to hang around once the bond was broken.
Yeah. They wanted to keep him in the kingdom's favor, not her.
Yeah. So it was kind of like playing two sides of the coin. Either she fixes the bond and we keep him, or she breaks the bond and we made him happy so he stays.
She also, in that first book, never stops being a bitch.
Oh, no, not even a little bit.
Even when she comes back later on and she's like, "Oh, he's gotten so much better. Had you put in any time and effort into this, you would have had an amazing partner." She's like, "Oh, wow, okay, you're useful-ish." It's like, go to hell. You're a horrible person.
I mean, the name she gave for him is Trent, which, if translated into the Elvish of this setting, means useless.
Yeah. Alright, we should probably start at the very beginning of this so we don't get too off track. But essentially, the main character is a summoned creature in the world. So they defeated a boss monster of a level of a dungeon, a permanent dungeon you can just go through and restart constantly, experience grind, get stuff from. Entire economies run off this dungeon because they get items and gold and other stuff out of it. And instead of being interested in the fact that this is the first human summons that she has ever heard of.
Pretty much anyone's ever heard of. I don't think anyone in this setting has ever looked at Trent and been like, "Yep, I've seen human summons before."
Yeah, essentially it's so super rare. Like, that alone should have been a clue of, "Oh, it's fucking rare as shit, that's amazing." Instead, she treats him like a piece of scum on the boot from the very get-go. The whole thing of like, "Oh, all right, what's your status?" Like, and he's just sitting there like, "What's the status?" It's like, "Oh, how could you not know this? You're so stupid." Like, he's literally come into existence 4 minutes ago, woman. Like, come on, give him at least a bit of time to acclimate.
Yeah.
And then when he finally shows the status, she's like, "These are horrible stats. These are rubbish." And it's just like, "Oh, okay. Like, you can work on that.
Yeah.
You were also rubbish at level 1.
Yeah.
And the way she puts it is like, "Oh, we don't have time to level some. We have to go deeper into the things. It's going to take too long to get him up to scratch." Completely forgetting the fact that power leveling exists. You take a low-level character into a place, and then you keep them safe, and they will gain a bunch of experience.
Especially because she has, I think she has leadership, which is
the
ability required to form a party and share XP.
Yeah. And it's, that falls apart. She's very pissed off and goes stomping back to the castle because she is technically royalty, but she's too far behind in succession to be of note, really.
Well, she's the son of the Duke of the land.
Yeah.
She's not part of the royal line.
But she's becoming an adventurer.
Yes.
So she wants to do the adventuring route. But everyone in the books is like, she's a shit adventurer and a shit person.
Yeah.
Like, even her own father's like, yeah, no, that child can't be trusted with this.
So they essentially pass him off to her brother, who sends him to the head trainer for the guard, who's like, oh my god, it's clay, and I may mold it into anything I want. Oh my god. And he fucking loves this kid.
The great thing is, like, his loyalty starts ticking down the second he's, like, brought into that world, and she treats him like shit.
Oh, yeah.
But at one point, because he is essentially a golem, like if he doesn't follow instructions from her, he gets so much pain, and this is pain that you cannot be dulled to. It is consistent torment. And they get back to the palace after he's just been summoned, and she's like, I'm gonna go do stuff. And he's like, oh, what should I do? And he's panting because he's barely able to keep up with these guys because he has bugger all stats in the stamina or anything. He's like, I don't know, go run laps. And then she just leaves. So he runs laps. And at some point, one of the guards is watching him, and he's getting puffed. And he's like, all right, cool, have a stop, have a bit of water. And he's like, no, I have to keep going. And he keeps running to the point where he will pass out. But then the magic of the summons will kick in and torture him until he gets up and starts running again. And this goes on for hours, to the point where the guards freak out and contact the Duke's son, who is the master of the guard. Like, something fucky's happened, and you need to come and see this. And then he, of course, gets angry, demands that she turn up, and she delays because politics.
Well, she thinks it's some dumb thing, and she doesn't have to be there. It's not important.
The exact words are, how dare he summon me? And it's like, A, you're younger than him. B, he's captain of the guard. C, he's higher in succession than you.
Yeah.
All of these things combined. Like, she's an unlikable character, and she's written that way.
Yeah.
Like, you're not meant to like her. She's an absolute bitch. But then, of course, he gets good mentors, and they take him on, and they realize he has so many skill slots and things we can use. And he goes on does things.
And he goes off on doing some training, and he clearly starts making friends with this girl, Tersa. And the big crux of the whole thing is they get pulled into what they call a wandering trial. Which is just a trial that can show up anywhere at any time and just warp a bunch of people away. And it warps him, his commander, their company of soldiers, and his master and her team of adventurers.
And all the poor recruits who are just there for, like, basic training.
So, they all get whiffed off to the land of the Undying Lord. At which point, all their commanders have to run away from them because trials base difficulty of monster on difficulty of person.
Yeah.
So we don't know at that point what level some of the commanders are, although we do later in the books in holy shit. So
they keep making a big fuss about level 50 at the start of the book, saying level 50 is a milestone. The entire time the king and the, like, trainer are just giggling in the background. They think 50's high.
So so all of their highest commanders have to immediately run away.
Yeah.
Trent, having developed some various skills, is one of the only people able to see the special magical traps in this trial. But due to Tersa, who accidentally bumbles him into a trap, him and Tersa get completely separated from everybody else.
Basically, every trial that Trent goes through is because of Tersa.
Well, at the start, anyway.
Yeah, she causes a lot of stupidity because she just keeps doing dumb shit.
But
she's at least likable.
Across the books, and certainly by the end of book 4, Tersa's actually turning into a much more interesting and well-rounded character.
Nice.
But then they use her at the start as well because they want to have some kind of, like, barbarian rejection of your base stats type vibe going on.
Yeah.
And so she has a lot of pig-headedness in her and does a lot of dumb shit. So it all basically boils down to, like, you've got these recruits who are trying to survive, Trent and Tersa who are going off on their own private adventure, and all the commanders off doing their own thing because they're too high level to be around any of their subordinates.
Yeah.
and the various shenanigans that happen there. Even in that, his master basically is terrible. She keeps making mistake after mistake after mistake.
Even just basic things that adventurers would do, because the way their system works is you can get skill stones as loot from monsters, and they'll teach you a skill. But you have no idea what's in it unless you have the identify skill. So what she does is at one point she finds a skill, just uses it, and gets a divine strike, which against the things they're fighting, the undead, is amazing. But she's lower level than someone else, doesn't know how to use that strike properly. And effectively, had she followed procedure and handed that into the higher-ups of the party, they would have been saved from so many other things.
Yeah.
Like, she made their fight infinitely harder by going, no, I want this.
There's a bit where almost her entire team gets killed because they go against the orders of the commanders.
Yep.
They go rogue and do the adventure thing. And
which they've already been told they've done before. Like, one of the people in their group is actually a plant from the Duke, who is a high-level assassin. And when they first get into this dungeon, he gets outed as being the high-level assassin because he can't hang around.
Yeah.
He's like, I have to go with the big guy over there because our levels combined means that the next, like, one monster appears, you are all dead. You will die horribly and in pain. So he leaves with him, and they go to a training session, essentially. So they've lost their scout, and their tank is an actual idiot.
Yeah.
He stands in front and, like, brute forces everything. It's like, I'm just going to stand here. It's like,
and he
could have moved.
And he's taken no dexterity, so he can't hit the broadside of a barn.
Yeah. And at any point, if someone tries to correct him, because they're all nobility, they're dicks about it.
Yeah.
At one point, someone in the military gives him, like, constructive criticism and basically gets told, shut the fuck up.
Yeah.
I am nobility. It's like, I look forward to when you die.
And he nearly does.
He nearly does. He almost gets wrecked because he stands in front of a train, essentially.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, like, they have because they're all just bad builds. Because they've got a magic user who is really good at water magic who decided to spec fire.
Yeah.
Like, he went against his natural alignment or natural affinity for magic. And he effectively has to nuke himself at one point to make sure that not everyone else doesn't die.
Yeah. I mean, it does work.
It works, yeah. Meanwhile, Trent's off just learning shit.
Yeah.
And being amazing. And being nice to things. Like, he gains a few abilities by going through... They get into a safe zone. It has all these nature spirits around. Little sprites and wisps. And he makes friends with one. And it teaches him a fire spell. A little spark kind of thing. So he can make a basic flame. And then it hangs out in his flame for a while, gets drunk, and makes friends. So he goes off wandering, makes more friends with other different kinds of elemental wisps, and that just keeps basing and building his power internally, because he's just being a wholesome, lovely person. But yeah.
I think plot-wise we'll leave it there in case you haven't read the book. It won't spoil the ending. But that's kind of how it breaks down. The rest of the book is essentially clearing this trial. And the various adventures that Trent and Terza have, the commanders have, and the other group have.
I do enjoy the commanders' little side story.
So
it was fun. It's a strange batch, because you have the commanders who are very much a comedy, I swear. It's two high-powered guys fighting hordes. Then you've got Trent and Terza, who are running around in a very more brutal sense. Like, one mistake, they're fucked. They're very low level.
They're glass cannoning it, because like they have abilities that are like, we can kill anything, but anything can kill us.
Yeah. Like, they can get fucked up pretty quickly. And then you have the rest, who are fledgling guardsmen, who are learning to do teamwork and cooperate and do that kind of stuff. So they are learning to entrench. They are learning about defensive positions and all that kind of stuff. And it's really interesting because it counterpoints very well into the three different kinds of role players or different kinds of gamers. You have the power gamers off in the distance laughing hysterically as they slaughter armies. You have the basic players who are like, cool, we're entrenched, we're following the mechanics, we're doing the thing, and we're steadily getting better. And then you have the Maples, who are just in the background getting absurd skills and being hilarious.
Yeah.
Like,
and that's kind of how the books continue on. I've read all 4 books that are currently available. It's not done yet. There will be more. And every time Trent ends up in a dungeon or in some weird circumstance, it's incredibly interesting. I don't know how to describe it because I've read so many fantasy novels, and like as you are well aware, we've been on a bit of a lit RPG kick here for a while. So I've read a lot of people going into dungeons, but they are just so much more interesting with the way they're written here. The most recent one was actually book 4. Actually, it contains a puzzle dungeon where they've got to solve riddles and mysteries to get through all the rooms. And it's just so interestingly written. And I love the way Trent is written. He is easily one of my favorite protagonists in a book series in a long time.
Oh, absolutely. Because he has no information, so it feels natural when people feed him info.
Yeah.
Because like he doesn't know. He's a summon. He has no knowledge of the kingdom. But he's also really nice, and he sees the world in a form of wonder that everyone else seems to be jaded to half the time. And you can, the way he's written, you can feel that wonder coming through. Even in dire circumstances like the dungeon, he finds beauty and things there to look into. Then you have the gritty side, which was the guards getting like surrounded and attacked by mini armies, essentially. It's like, this is a nice juxtaposition. You can see that the darker version of people born to this, who have been raised in this, to someone who was just sprung into being as an 8-year-old or a 10-year-old or something along those lines. And how he's interpreting the world. It's like, I like this. This is fresh and interesting. It's a very like well-worn territory for a story type, but he's done it in such an interesting way.
It's really hard to describe. Because if I told you, like, in one of the later books, he ends up in a dungeon full of were creatures. But the way he interacts with the entire setting, the way they describe what he's doing and how he interacts with, it's just so interesting.
Yeah.
I can't do it justice to say, oh yeah, he was in a werewolf trial and he kills a bunch of were creatures and he finds some extra magical items in there that he doesn't really understand, but they work really well in the setting, and it moves on and on and on. But I don't know, it's just described perfectly.
Like, even in the first book, in the trial where they have that save point where makes friends of wisps, he finds some loot that he doesn't need to kill anything for. He just helps out these wisps and they give him some stuff. And he opens the boxes, the 3 loot boxes, and the other 2 are passed out somewhere. And he finds these boxes, opens each one, and he's like, this is clearly not for me. This item is clearly for Tersa. Or this item is clearly for X other person. And according to the other 2, when he goes back and presents them with the items, like, by rights, this is yours. You found it, you opened the chest, you cleared it. You don't have to give this to us. It's like, yeah, but it's clearly for you.
Yeah.
He's just a good adventurer and a good human being.
Yeah.
Which is hilarious because it takes a summons to be a better human being than a human being is.
Yeah. And again, that vibe continues to the remaining books and never gets boring. Yeah. Well, at least it didn't for me. I always wanted to devour the next book. And it's really annoying because it leaves on a cliffhanger for book 4.
Yeah. See, like, if it weren't for the fact that Stray Cat Strut came out like right after I finished that book, I would be going back and reading the next ones, and I'll probably do that very soon, to be honest.
I would highly recommend it. It's worth your time.
Yeah, definitely. I got distracted because was it 8 had its second book come out as well, so I just finished that one.
Yeah. Would highly recommend The Land of the Undying Lord and the Infinite World series in general. Definitely worth checking out. I really, really enjoyed the writing style on that. The things that John Doe brought up, they're a thing. I think different people might get different mileage on how much they affect how much they enjoy the story.
Just be prepared to hate certain characters that you are meant to hate.
Yeah. I mean, you might not hate his old master by the end of the story, but you're definitely supposed to not like her at the start, and definitely not supposed to like her in the middle.
She has to learn some pretty hard truths, and it's nice to see her almost learn those truths. But yeah.
Yeah. So
next book we have there. What we got?
So it's my pick this time, and I think a bunch of podcasts ago, I said I'd do something sci-fi because we've done a lot of fantasy stuff, like on Earth stuff. So I'm gonna do Hell's Rejects. Now I'm specifically gonna suggest we get the books 1 through 4 pack. Gonna get you the most...
It's 1 credit for 4 books. That's 30 hours of content.
Yeah, so I'm not gonna skimp you. I'm not gonna nickel and dime you. Get book 1 and book 2, and no, we'll just get all 4 books. I have previously read this. It was a long while ago, and I went to try and read the follow-ups, and I'm like, I don't remember this at all. So I'm going to be going back and rereading this whole set again so that I can continue reading it. And I figured, how about we all go along and do Hell's Rejects again?
From the blurb, I'm quite keen on this. It honestly sounds like a sci-fi space version of the Suicide Squad.
Kind of is. Essentially, the main character gets framed, put in a prison. So, some spaceships have been taken, and they're like, well, we need a whole bunch of guys who are very expendable that we can send into enemy territory to go get them back.
Yeah.
And they essentially quasi-break out a bunch of people from this penal colony, and they're like, if you guys don't want to die, go get our ships back.
Yeah.
And that's what they do. Oh, that's what they attempt to do. It's not finished by the end of book 4, of course.
And on the plus side, this is a vetted series, because Seth's already enjoyed it so far, so chances are we will also enjoy this.
Yes, I liked it. I don't know, but like I'm weird and my brain doesn't work, so
neither does ours. It's fine.
But I mean, at the same time, it's 1 credit for 4 books.
Yeah.
It's pretty good. I like that they've got pretty good voice acting for all the characters. One of them actually has like a voice tick, and they actually incorporated into the way the characters' lines are read.
I do like that.
It's not an overt one. It's overt, but it's not like super annoying. But they didn't
horribly distracting.
Yeah, well, I mean, like he's supposed to be like this little squirrel dude, and he has this sort of like thing when he talks. It's supposed to be like them laughing. And they actually do that when he talks.
Nice.
And it does help you identify when he's the character at the front, but like they all have different voices and different accents, and they're very... When the whole crowd's talking, you don't need, and this character said this, and this character said... You can hear all the voices and know who's talking.
Excellent. I like when that happens.
Yes, so... Like I said, I liked it enough that the first time I read it, I wanted to read the rest of it, and I like it enough that I'm willing to go back and reread the whole thing again to try and read the rest of it.
Yeah. But I'm keen for that one. I've already grabbed that. It's going to be a good read, I think.
Yeah.
Or a good listen.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, it's kind of got a bit of a Suicide Squad via Firefly kind of vibe to it. They go to a lot of
I'm on board.
Places of scum and villainy, and it's all about the weird interplay of the crew, and yeah.
Ooh, I like that. That's going to be fun.
Yeah, it's a fun time.
Yeah.
So, that will be our book for next month. Well, the coming month.
Yes.
Get this a little away from... It's not a lit RPG, it's not a progression RPG, and it's not a fantasy story.
Like, the next one I think I have to choose, I'm going to make sure it's not a progression or lit RPG, I think.
Look, if we've got a good one, I'm not saying no, but like, I was just like, look, we got to do something different, jump into the sci-fi realm, because I got a lot of sci-fi books I want to read, so... I'm sure I can find us something a little bit different. Like, I love Stray Cat Strut, but it's another fucking progression story.
It is. It definitely is. But it's like, there's a few that I've got in my wish list that I think would be good that aren't progression RPGs at all. So, even I'm reaching that point of like, I should read other things. I love this thing, but I don't want to like gorge myself.
Yeah.
I don't want to get sick of this. So... That's why I want to branch out.
It feels good because we sort of did lit RPGs and then we stepped down onto progression RPGs and now we're going to step away again. Not to say we ain't coming back because there's some I've been recommended by people that I really do want to get to.
Worst comes to worst, we will use them as a point like, I can't find anything that really speaks to me right now. Progression RPG.
Yeah, probably.
They're a good palate cleanser, we'll put it that way.
I mean, and now that I've got like a couple of these series going... I mean, like a finished 10 Realms, but there's still He Who Fights with Monsters, and now I'm going to be looking out for the next book in the Infinite World. So, you know, it's not like we're going to be not going to circle around again and maybe talk about some books just because, hey, some more of that series we liked came out.
Pretty much.
Anyway, we made it out to past an hour, so I think we're done for the week. Y'all have a good one.
Have a good one. Also, happy Easter, because we just passed that.
Yeah,
so
that too.
I hope you all enjoyed your chocolate day.
I mean, I did.
It was pretty fun.
Alright, later.
Bye.